Hello, you're watching World Talks on TVP World. My name is Sascha Fahrbach. In a recent high-level gathering in Brussels, Baltic states, including Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia and Poland, formalized plans to strengthen their borders, sharing intelligence and coordinating joint exercises to respond to hybrid threats. The discussion also emphasized the EU's €23 billion East Invest initiative to boost economic resilience in eastern border regions. And joining us now to discuss it is Artis Pabriks, former Latvian Defense and Foreign Minister. Good to have you on the program. Welcome.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Let's begin with this declaration. This is not the first time that these countries are coordinating closer. What makes this declaration different, and what tangible things do you see coming out of it?
Well, first of all, it's only normal that in current geopolitical circumstances, we are folding also closer internal ties within European Union and within NATO with countries which experience similar fate in history and who has also similar perception of threat. And obviously Poland, Baltic countries, also Nordic countries are the countries which always looked very soberly towards permanent threat which is coming from the east, from Russia. And this latest initiative basically allows us to speak in more united voice in European Union and hopefully also in NATO, and to create a closer alliances to defend what is important for us. Either it is economics or it is purely defense and military part. And this approach as far as EU funding for border areas, it's highly important because since full-scale Russian invasion in Ukraine, obviously the border populations closer to the Russian or Belarusian border, they are also increasingly worried, and it's much more difficult to obtain investments and to create a new economic initiatives. And that means that Europe have to step up and assist us because at the end, these people are possibly suffering more just because we have a tough neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. A tough neighborhood indeed, and I think also we've seen that, and we've covered a lot of the hybrid threats. We've seen that also on the maritime level. If we're looking at the vulnerabilities, the undersea cables, etc. Unfortunately, many of those recently as well. Do you see these kind of declarations, this initiative, would that, let's say, increase response times, increase resources? What are we looking at here tangibly that can come out of this?
Well, we really have to demand and we have to follow up that it is not only declarations and meetings, which frequently happens on a high political level. We have to follow up that there is efficiency, and we can really see the effects of such meetings within the economic sphere, within the sphere of military cooperation and collaboration, because I really believe that these countries around the Baltic Sea, which means, again, NB8 and Poland, possibly with some other countries joining, we could offer serious responses to those challenges which were not tackled in the last few years, like including seizing ships which are violating our security, or also preventing different type of hybrid attacks under the fifth paragraph level, because very clearly the Russian activities within our territories, inside our interests, they will increase because Russia with every year is becoming more desperate.
Mm-hmm. More desperate also, as we said, this is something that also makes it more dangerous. Also in terms of, you touched on this already, the economic component, looking also at what was discussed in Brussels, looking at the Commission's plan, this East Invest program, €23 billion. I mean, you know the locations yourself. Where could this money go to? I mean, we talk a lot, especially here in Poland, about strengthening that border militarily, but what kind of infrastructure, economic benefits can come out of this investment from the EU?
Well, such type of investment in the optimal case should be used to bolster economic activity in the border areas, which in my understanding would be something like 50 to 60, 70 maybe kilometers from a border area with Russia, let's say in Latvian case. And they should be also with a kind of a hybrid investment approach. So it's not only would support people to stay in these areas, to create economic activities, but it also would grant kind of a hybrid support, in this case, in a positive sense, also for security necessities, either logistics, supply lines. So everything which could, in the event of crisis or in event of war, could support our militaries, NATO militaries, to hold these areas and not to give it up.
And one of those things, I'm just curious also how this fits in. We have the Via Baltica as well, very key road expansion that goes all the way from the capital Poland. I've driven there myself all the way up to Estonia. But in some cases, it is very narrow. It's still not 100% finished. Do you see this kind of funding push that further? Do you see an expansion of that road network? Because, I mean, that's still a vital artery.
Well, there are two vital arteries which are now still missing investment and a clear, efficient political decision-making and construction, which is one is Via Baltica, north-south, and also Rail Baltica, which is still also not functional. But here with those 23 billion, obviously is too short. But I would say that if NB8 Poland, if we are stepping up in the discussions in Brussels about additional financial allocations, this could be completed. And I would say this is not just for local collaboration or cooperation of our economies, and not only for a military use, but I would say that Arctic and more far south, starting with maybe Turkey and further on, these are the areas which could be united with these roads, and that would be beneficial to countries like Poland, Baltic states, and also Finland, and maybe even North America, which is highly interested in what is happening in Arctic.
Yeah. Speaking of North America, I also want to get your sense. I mean, you yourself were a defense minister, and I'm just trying to get your sense of how you've seen this situation change over those years. How, let's say, is this region now more strategically important? Are the Americans, it's not just the Americans, the Canadians also involved in the Baltic region, but Americans themselves, what do you think? Do they see this more as a strategic point right now? Are they more invested? Will they stay? How do you take those conversations you had in the past to now?
You mean about Arctic?
Well, not just the Arctic, but I think the American presence in the Baltic Sea, those threats from Russia.
Well, I would say that this is a broader discussion, and clearly United States are putting more responsibility, and it's understandable, more responsibility on European side, especially on our side. But Americans not always divide these responsibilities between Western Europeans and the regions like Baltic Sea, like where Poland is, and Baltic countries. And the problem is that by bashing Europe as whole, they are actually putting more responsibility on our region, which in fact is doing their homework, because we are doing our homework. And from that perspective, of course, we are kind of the ones which are losing the most by American retreat. But let's be clear here. I very much agree also with your Minister Sikorski about his analysis that we have to step up our regional cooperation while we have these changing times, because only to rely on somebody from outside who might assist and help us, or to rely on slow decision-making in Brussels might be not enough. This is why regional cooperation is the key and the answer to fold additional alliances, either within EU or within NATO or within transatlantic alliance. And this is not something which is coming in place, but this is something which gives us additional reassurances.
And just briefly to wrap up, and we've had some incidents recently as well, looking at what's happened to a French ship with a Russian drone approaching really close by in Sweden. We talked about the desperation of Russia, but how, let's say, with the narrow span of waterways, etc., how, let's say, tense are situations now in your assessment from being in the region?
It's still manageable, but again, Russia is becoming more desperate, and we know from the Russian history that governments in Russia changes only in two ways. Either it is a revolution or it is a coup. Somebody falls out of window or drinks a tea. So I think that this year, the last year, we came closer to such possibilities in Russia. But we cannot wait for this, and we cannot rely that history or fate will solve our problems, which means we must become more resilient and capable to answer such challenges. And the problem is that by thinking to de-escalate, like frequently our allies in the Western Europe thinks, we are actually allowing Russians to escalate. Russians understand the strengths, the hard language, and then they retreat. And up to now, we simply have been in many areas too soft. And Ukrainian support, our support to Ukraine, is also a litmus test, because once they see that we are shaking and not giving full support, they go forward.
All right, so more coordination there. Look, we say thank you, and also paldies to you. That was Artis Pabriks, former Latvian Defense Minister. Thank you. And thank you for watching. It concludes World Talks, but stay right here on TVP World for more. Goodbye.